Because when you're talking about Ronaldo, you cannot not talk about Lionel Messi, right? So that
Right.
is the thing. But if I were to talk about this specific deal with Saudi Arabian club Al Nassr, I have a bit different perspective from how everyone has been predicting. Sure, it is going to improve the standards of football, as we saw in Syria, and also the eyes of the world towards it.
Right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Sports Lost Edge podcast. My name is Tushar Katheria, and first of all, happy New Year to everyone. So we are starting our new episode with one of the special guests, Professor Nishant Sheokand, who is the associate professor in AVIL Chennai. He is one of the triarchy of Indian three sports law professor who are working. First was the Professor Subhrajit Chanda, second was Professor Tarun, and third, finally, we get the time to having on board Professor Nishant in our podcast session. Professor Nishant, first of all, welcome to the Sports Sausage podcast. How are you?
Thank you so much, Tushar, for inviting me and having me today. And again, one more thank you for that generous introduction, calling me the triarchy, and one of the few who are doing something on sports law in India. I'm doing pretty fine, and also again, happy New Year to everyone, to all the listeners, and for all the support which they have been showing to this particular podcast. It has been amazing to see you. Have different kind of people from various backgrounds in sports law. It has been absolutely amazing.
So yeah, thank you so much for your kind words, Professor. So let's move on to our first question. So how was your journey started from Jindal Global Law School to the sports legal industry, and how the transition happened for you?
Okay, so just a small clarification, because not everyone knows this thing. Like my journey into sports law, or sports per se, has been going on throughout my life. If I talk about, since when I started thinking on my own, that is the point where my journey into sports started. I used to play throughout the day, playing cricket, football, volleyball, basketball. I went into all kinds of games which I could get my hands on, right? I remember one instance, if time allows, I would like to share, where,
Sure.
you know, like in our childhood, we have these games, right, where all the friends are grouping together and coming together to play certain games on a Sunday morning. So it used to happen for me as well. I used to go for morning games. Then, me being me, I was not at all satisfied by only playing one game, right? I would then go to my next friend's house. Then I'll go to next friend's house. So my morning to evening used to be football, cricket, and volleyball. And my parents would be very, very scared of, okay, where's our child? Where's our kid? Has anyone kidnapped him?
Right.
It happened one time that they went to a police station and they filed an FIR saying that,
Oh,
okay, our kid is lost. Please go and find him. And I think it is vivid in my memory. I was coming back home that specific day, all happy that, okay, I've played a lot. It was a very good day, and I saw police officers and my dad, my mom. They all were worried, standing outside the house, waiting, or trying to gather what is happening.
right.
Then that's the, I think, only time I got a whooping from my parents that okay, it is okay you play, but still don't get this much into it. So again, just to shorten my answer, it has been throughout. Then I went to OP Jindal Global University. There, that particular university, I'm thankful for everything it has given to me. It has literally transformed my life from a sports
Right.
person to who I am today, as an individual who never or who did not know anything about how the society works or what is the background behind the sports, who does it, what does it take to even organize a simple tournament. So there again, I was introduced to different kind of sports. Again, I got into my same routine of playing sports. Then one day suddenly, one person came into my life as my professor, nothing else. So Professor Shaun Star, I think everyone knows
Right.
Professor Shaun Star, and he has been one of those individuals, who has brought or who has transformed Indian sports law arena, how it works, and the kind of people who are now involved in it. I think he has a major role in it. So he introduced me to sports law during my undergrad, and then again I went back to Jindal for my first masters, which is LLM. There also, then I had that advanced sports law course with him. So the journey kind of started from there, and then I never looked back. Started working with different companies, started working with, let's say, as a consultant, small time consultant, where I would go to smaller leagues in India. Like I would go to where district matches are happening for cricket. I would go and
Right.
talk to coaches. I would go and talk to players. And then, sort of from the ground, it all started for me.
Absolutely, it's really great to know about your journey, because as we are from India, and usually what happened, we don't have the accessibility of the open grounds, and usually what happened, we didn't tell our parents that where are we going to play our matches. So ultimately we already got whipped so much in our childhood. So yeah, it's the thing that we as a Indian people who are played such kind of a sports, whether it's cricket or football, and these are things which are we all get used to it, because there's so many things which happen in our life, but sport is something which help us out to disassociate from the school. So that really help us out from that. So yeah, so let's move on to the next question. So you went to the ISDE Barcelona campus and you completed your global masters in sports management and legal skill. How was your experience was there, and what ISDE add up the value into the sports legal industry? So
Yeah, interesting. So, ISDE is one of a kind place which could exist in this or education industry, basically, not the sports industry, but in the education industry. Back then, I remember back then then owners of ISDE, or the people behind creation of ISDE, Daniel Pinto. I remember talking to him vividly about what is the idea behind it and how or what they exactly are trying to do. It's a conglomerate of different law firms which came together and sort of built it up from ground. How does it work in India? It is just a university backed by government or
right,
any private organization or a research fund or something like that, right? But it is totally different there. It is the practitioners who are there in the industry. They came together and built it. Even if I talk about the course is built on one idea and one idea only, which is that all the courses will be taught by the practitioners. For example, if there is a
right,
course on football law, someone from FIFA, someone from Barcelona, Football Club Barcelona, or any other club, they'll come and teach us what happens on the ground. How do they negotiate contracts? How does it happen? Not in theory, but in practice. Everything is about practice. And I think you would also know, and everyone who is in the industry would appreciate the importance of networking in the sports
right,
industry, right? You cannot, like, this is something, a tip I usually give it to all my students, that if you want to join or if you want to get into this particular industry, even if you do not know the law properly, even if you do not know, okay, the sports regulations of a particular sports, it you will get it eventually. But the way to start is to network, to know more and more and more people, because it is a very closely knit society, and that is how things operate in sports, and not beyond at all, right? It is all about inclusivity, but it is a closed space, unfortunately. So
right,
we have, or the idea behind is now to expand it in the Asian market, which is it is happening. But with respect to his day, it gave me everything with respect to sports law. The kind of courses now I'm curating, places I'm working, it
hmm,
all has been because of his day. And obviously the vision Daniel Pinto had. But now he has moved on to ITTI, and again ITTI is also trying to do
hmm.
something on the similar lines, but on the like much better platform they are giving with respect to esports. They are now totally focused on esports. So I think that is also something which is worth checking out.
Yeah, and you talk about because a lot of our guests are the alumni of the East Day. Though I'm not went to this day still now, but the thing of what you talk about the networking part, and it is completely true that a sports industry, which is a closed market, and for that, if you want to work into that industry, you should do the networking from the first day onwards. Whenever you step into the ground, and whether you're working as a small paralegal or even as that, you have to do the networking. And it is completely true that networking really help you out to get the that kind of opportunity, especially in the sports legal industry. And for that, I think from the last 2 years, what I have done, doing the networking is the best thing that you can get connected with the people who are working in there. So like I met one of the great people from the sports legal industry, like Roshan Gopalakrishna, who is working in the law NK, Jesse Engelhardt, who is I think through posting one of the
Sensato.
posts.
Yeah.
Yeah, Sensato. And Deep Ray is someone who is one of the few people from India who established himself into the European market and working as a sports lawyer. So networking is one of the key ingredient and criteria which you should have possessed from the first day if you wanted to work into the sports legal industry. So yeah, let's move on to the next question. So you work as a lawyer and as a legal consultant and as an academician. Which role did you enjoy the most?
I think I when I always think about my journey and all these kind of different roles which are I have been in. I am divided. Like I'm partial towards each role which is there because every kind of a role, for example, being a consultant or being a lawyer and now an academician, holds a very special, space in my life. And I would not have been again keep talking about who I am today has been because of the journey I have had, and not because okay suddenly one day I just thought of becoming an academician and that is it. But if I were to talk about one of these roles, I think I would go ahead with the academic part of it, not just because I get to express myself here, because that is what academics does it, right? It gives you a platform to express yourself as an individual, as a professional, but also the kind of interaction you get to have with the next coming generation or people who are now looking up to you. Like how I used to look up to Shaun Star or anyone in the particular field, now they are looking up to us and looking for that particular guidance. So that is something which is very satisfactory and also pushes you to do better, be more passionate about when you look at these kids. Although I'm also young, I would like to mention here, but still, that is something which is very close to the heart, and my vote goes to academics.
Great. So let's move on to this, some of the international and Indian sports. What happening into the Indian sports? So recently, Government of India, they released the notification regards to the esports, and they are recognizing as a multi-sport. However, if you see the notification, which is was released by the Government of India three weeks prior, and they didn't show the data and any kind of research material which can really back such kind of notification. What are your views on such kind of issues and the future of esports? Because in the next coming years, we will see that a lot of the metaverse game will also come into the picture, and a lot of the tournament will be happen. And we still don't know about the past game like BGMI, which got banned, and some of the games are doing really great like Pokemon Unite, Valorant. FIFA is something that most of the esports athletes are coming on board, and they are representing India at the international events like Saransh Jain, Charanjot, Lokmanu. These all are the athletes who are right now representing India. So yeah, your views on that?
So I have a mixed feeling about it, although I'm a person who always looks at the glass half full and not half empty. But with respect to this notification, a lot of the professionals and people who are in the industry or who are looking forward to such a notification are taking it as it being recognized and suddenly, a regulation coming out. But what exactly does it talk about? It only talks, it has assigned a particular ministry to be the stakeholder in it, and which is now further going, like moving forward they are going to control each and everything which is in respect to esports, right? And now afterwards they have released certain draft regulations for which now they are expecting comments from the industry experts and everything. But if we were to try to understand the esports or gaming, online gaming industry,
Yeah.
and that to skill-based online gaming industry, I would not, let's say, comment on the other part of it because
Mhm.
it gets into betting and it gets into gambling. That is a different, let's say, ball game altogether. But
Right.
if we talk about skill-based online gaming and online gamers, most of the gamers are not even aware whether there is a regulation which exists.
Mm.
If they are aware about it, for example, a person who is just playing a game on his or her mobile phone or
Right.
playing Dream 11 or playing any other skill based game, they're not aware their state is whether regulating it, whether the state is
Mm.
going to ban it. And it has a direct impact on their livelihood because it is not about the professional esports player, because for them it is clear that this is the career path they have chosen. They have a
Right.
professional team and they have sponsors as well, right? But
Right.
not for the other side of the gamers, not for the other side of the gamers. For them it could be where they have one stream of income but they are using it as a separate stream of income as well.
Mm.
But
Right.
then if you look at certain notification from various states in the country in India where it falls under list 2 of the constitution where they
Mhm.
get to form certain regulations on it, those regulations are straight away putting them in the category of criminals if they are earning money because of it
Mm.
or they are putting
Right.
money on it. Although it is a skill based game, but still they are not allowed to do it. They are criminals. Right now, I'm based out of Tamil Nadu. I have to first think before whether I would play FIFA online in a competition where I'm putting money on it and I'm earning money out of it because I'm very good
Mm.
at it. Like throughout my life, I've played FIFA and I still continue to play. Like from 2016 to 2023, I've all the versions. I've played more than 1,000 games per version. Right now,
Right.
for me to shift to Chennai, it becomes a problem. And
Mm.
now I'm thinking whether I should, move away from Chennai just because I'm not able to follow my passion and I'm not able to follow that side stream of income which I used to have, but I do
Mm.
not have right now. Right. Apart from this, like again, there are a lot of issues which needs to be addressed before we start calling it a recognized sport. Although the government is making those efforts, on the positive side, if I were to talk about it, it is definitely, like you mentioned, it is definitely going to provide a platform to different kinds of games to come up. It is going to open up various fields
Mm.
where people can be involved in. It is not just going to be limited to technology right now. It is now going to open each and everything, each and every aspect for anyone or everyone who is involved in the industry.
Right.
New kinds of games are going to come up, new kinds of positions or new kinds of career choices are going to come up. But
Mm.
again, is Indian society ready to accept it as a, let's say, separate field of or separate career choice for their kids? Because
Right.
you, me, everyone knows if you are playing too much every day, what are your parents, that smaller society which exists within the society,
Right.
what are they going to talk about it? Whether they are going to allow you to do it or not. If that restriction is there right in your family, because the family does not understand the nature of the game. They see it as a distraction from our typical line of career, which is education. I'm not
Right.
saying that do not do that. My advice is always to all the gamers is that focus on your education and along with it, follow this as a career path as well. Then, for example, if you talk about card games, right?
Mm.
For
Right.
example, you talk about poker. If specifically poker, if an individual who do not understand poker, they deem it as that it is gambling or you are
Right.
putting money and it is a game of chance. But it is a game of skill, right? You have to
Mm.
predict, you have to use certain strategies, thinking about what is the next card going to be and what is the combination of the cards which is
Right.
going to be there. So that way it becomes that skill. But again, as a person who is logging in the morning in
Mm.
any online platform and he's playing or she's playing till night,
Right.
how is the society perceiving them? So all
Mm.
these questions needs to be addressed by the government, and then only we can think about a solution for this particular and then only it can progress, and obviously it is going to progress But I hope it is not like China, where China has
Mm,
very strict regulation where they control the number of hours you are playing, the
right.
number of hours you are training. So I think this is a very positive step when they are inviting comments from the industry experts, from everyone, that okay, you give us your comments, and then only we are going to go ahead with it. So
Mm,
it's a good positive step, but a lot of questions needs to be answered. A lot of research has to be there. Although we are calling it sports, although we are
mm,
calling them athletes, but if you compare it to our conventional sports, right, there
right.
is a regulatory body which controls each and everything, and the rights of the players,
Mm,
athletes, are being protected. But is it the same case when we talk about esports or gaming? Like, I'll use these words interchangeably, although they are not, but I'm just using those interchangeably.
mm,
So my answer is, again, it is a glass half full, half
mm,
empty. If these questions, along with numerous others, if they are answered, then again a very positive step. But hopefully not on the lines of China, but more like,
mm.
I think, Korea or USA, how these countries have been doing in the past.
Right. Absolutely, I completely agree with you. And my views on this, because I wrote one of the paper into the esports, and the one thing which is very concerning, because it's a very volatile market, because every time what happen in 1 month, an esports athlete is playing for the one organization, and in the another month or after 2 months there can be a dispute between that team organization with the athlete, and he can get the transfer into the another esports organization, which shall be regulated, because the frequent transfer can be a very big problem for the esports organization, because they are also investing in the athletes, as well as they have to also see the name, image and likeness policy, because we already saw that how US has already evolved their NIL policy, and in esport we don't know about it, that how we have to protect the data and how we have to protect the name, image and likeness of the esports athlete. So and the one advantage that can I gave you, that I can see after this notification, the visa policy, because what happened with the esports athletes, they didn't get the visa very easily, and because of the process of the policy that government had prior to this notification, it's very difficult to retrieve the visa from the visa officers and from the embassies. So after this notification, maybe government is planning to implement the more they will focusing on how they will provide the visas for the other embassies for the other countries, because lot of the athletes does go into the international events in the UK, in Europe, in US, as well as in the eastern world like South Korea, Japan, because a lot of the tournament which happen in that hemisphere. So yeah.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Just on the visa part, I would like to add that, when we are specifically talking about athlete and
mhm,
esports athlete comparison, so athletes, they straight away get it because it's a temporary visa which is given to you to play a certain tournament. For example, a World Cup, Asia Cup, any cup, these are smaller, right? It is for a
mhm,
month or 2 months maximum and not going beyond that. So most of the countries have laws where you don't need that work permit to go
right,
and work for your country, because that is what you are doing. You're representing your country and you are going there. And with respect to esports as well, they're just going to consider and insert it into the same category. As far as I'm aware, I am not sure on it. It is already there for the gamers. If you are going abroad to play any tournament like Dota or anything which is happening in any other country,
right,
you fall under that and you straight away get your visa, and there's less problem compared to
mhm,
visa. And that is also, like, again, it is going to be a very smart move on the part of the teams which are going to hire, because what they do
right,
is they get into two types of contract. One is contract for the authorities, and second is a private contract between two parties. So what they do is
right.
they will offer you a 2 3 year contract to the that private contract,
Longer duration contract, right,
and the other contract is going to be for 3 months, which is for the
mm,
authorities, where you temporarily go and play, and there's no work permit required because you
right.
fall under that tournament category, and
Exemption,
you can just,
right.
yeah, you can just go and play. And over the time, they'll just get the visa. So that is how they have been circumventing, and they will be circumventing such a law.
Absolutely. I think this happened with the Godlike esport. I think last year in 2021 when they were went to the this PUBG Global Championship at that time, and we had this podcast with Abhishek Sharma, who is a sports agent, and he is also focusing in the esports athlete. So this happened with the Indian esports athlete because they didn't get the visa on time, and because maybe because at that time market were opening at the time after the pandemic, so because of that only such scenario can happen. So let's see what will happen in the coming months, that what the next notification would be, because I think in the budget session maybe they will discuss on that, or maybe in the monsoon season. So let's see. So let's move on to our next question. So finally Cristiano Ronaldo get a he went to the Al Nassr football club in Saudi Arabia, and he already get a transfer deal, which we predicted with the Deep Ray, who is one of our prior guests in this podcast. How this transfer will make an impact into the Middle East region, and most of the people don't know about the how the Middle East region work in the football industry. So how it will be one of the biggest step that happened also in the US when they signed the Pele and David Beckham, and how the valuation of the Major League Soccer evolved at that time. So yeah.
Yeah, interesting. So, when we talk about Cristiano Ronaldo, like as you saw, it puts a huge smile on my face because me being a Cristiano Ronaldo fan. But also, I am a bit sad about how the World Cup turned out to be. Because, again,
Mm,
being a Ronaldo fan, and I would have, or let's say I would have liked it the other way around, where Ronaldo was winning it and everything was coming to him. But again, that's a sad story, and let's not get too much into it because otherwise we'll be derailed. But I'll definitely come back to Messi because when you're talking about Ronaldo, you cannot not talk about Lionel Messi, right? So that
right.
is the thing. But if I were to talk about this specific deal with Saudi Arabian club Al Nassr, I have a bit different perspective from how everyone has been predicting. Sure, it is going to improve the standards of football, as we saw in Syria, and also the eyes of the world towards it.
Right.
All that, let's say, people are now going to start watching. At least few people are now going to start watching, and it is definitely going to drive sponsorship. It is going to drive everything towards. It is going to improve the standards of the league. But these are the
Right.
things I think everyone has been talking about. For me, it is a larger concern if I were to talk about, like we saw in the World Cup, right? Qatar World Cup, if you again go back 8 to 10 years, tracing back the history what Qatar has been doing and what Saudi Arabia also has been doing, these
Right.
countries have been always been criticized because of their human rights violations or the
Mm,
violations with respect to LGBTQ plus community, right?
right.
And they have these soft power ambitions. If I'm talking about soft power ambition, it means that instead of taking the conventional international relations route to
Mm,
change their world perception, they are doing it through sports. They are attracting all the mega events so
mm,
that they are able to change their specific, or they are able to hide the kind of negatives which are attached to these countries.
right.
That's what Qatar did by attracting FIFA World Cup there. But what is the problem there? FIFA, it being an international governance body, not just a gatekeeper of football, it could
Right.
have acted as a gatekeeper of the human rights as well, right? For the LGBTQ community and also the migrant workers which are there. Because
Right.
as a governing body, they have the right to put sanctions and they have the right to even take it back from a country like this. But they did
Mm,
not do that. Question is whether FIFA is able to do that. They are. We saw it in the 2019 Women's World Cup, where it
mm,
was termed as one of the most gayest World Cup. Like it has been. I read it somewhere that it has been termed as the gayest World Cup ever, where it had most number of openly gay players which were there,
right.
and the rights were protected. Players were allowed to support it publicly. The fans
Mhm,
were allowed to celebrate it publicly, right? FIFA was involved. FIFA did not do
mm,
anything about it because FIFA supported it. It is right
right.
there in their statutes. Article 3 of the statutes straight away talk about that they are going to recognize each and everything which is their international laws, international human rights law, and everything. So
Right.
it can act as Amnesty International, which is supposed to be the gatekeeper of the international human rights.
Mm-hmm.
FIFA has that potential, whether they are ready to use that soft law versus these soft power ambitions of countries like Saudi Arabia or not. Because let me tell you, come back to Lionel Messi, they have now, I think it happened a few months back where Lionel Messi is also now a global ambassador for Saudi Arabia. He is
Right.
earning somewhere around 20 to 25 million. Now Ronaldo is earning this much. So they are
Mm-hmm.
bringing the arguably the top two players of our generation to
Mm-hmm.
Saudi Arabia and attracting all kind of positive press which is attached to it.
Mm-hmm.
So apart from the footballing ambitions, I think they are trying to hide what is happening or what has been happening throughout with respect to the rights.
Mm-hmm.
And Ronaldo is expected to, let's say, point these out, but I am not sure whether he is going to do that or whether he
Mm-hmm.
will be able to do that because he is not married till yet.
Yeah.
Whether
Right.
whether Saudi Arabia is now going to bend their laws for
They
their
are. They
super
are bending. With.
yeah, I think, yeah, like you said, they are going to bend it right. So that way, if they are doing such things for Ronaldo, and Ronaldo in turn turns around and does it, so that is not going to be a positive
Mm-hmm.
collaboration for both the parties. And then there are speculations whether there are clauses in his contract or not. I think that
Mm-hmm.
that is all speculation because of all the Saudi Arabia connection between Newcastle and Al Nazar. But let's see what happens in the future. But that is specifically my take. That is what I think these countries are trying to do, which is known as sports washing. Like through
Uh,
sports, they are washing their let's say dirty laundry, if I were to say.
right. Because right now we also saw that in America they have world racing entertainment, sporting entertainment. Um, we can call it as a very entertainment side of it, and they already had a deal with the WWE, and every year they're having this mega event in the Saudi Arabia, and which is also come under the bracket of the sport washing in regards to that. And I think I completely agree with you that what the things which happen in the Middle Eastern countries and the laws which they follow, because they follow the Islamic law, the Shariat law, which they follow, and they completely abide by it. But right now, we already talk about that because in Saudi Arabia, the men cannot stay or live in relationship with the another woman. But for the Cristiano Ronaldo, they are bending the law. So let's see what will happen in the coming months, because I think such kind of deal can become their sports washing deal
So
in
I
coming
think it
time.
is more than about football. There are, like I said, there are different agendas at play.
Hmm.
Uh,
Right.
and it could also be termed as their way of you know building themselves up for the 2030 bid
Right.
for the World
For the
Cup.
FIFA World Cup, as well as for I think they will also trying to get to the Summer Olympic Games, maybe, but I'm not sure about it. But they are focusing. The next move would be the FIFA World Cup. What this David Beckham done when he joined the MLS, and right now he having his own club Inter Miami, and successfully America got the bid for the next World Cup,
So
right?
exactly, this deal has that potential of turning Saudi Arabia into next MLS, right? Because MLS is now considered as a decent league where very
Right.
good players are coming up. For example, your I think what's his name who plays for Bayern Munich. Um,
Alfonso Davis.
Yeah, Alfonso Davis, like him, and there are a lot of options. Although I'm not aware, but I keep reading that players used to like it used to be a retirement home for the players, but
Right.
now it is turning the waves, and the younger players from MLS are now moving towards Europe.
Right.
And with respect to one more thing, I would like to say that it can be a political debate or international law debate where
Right.
the Europeans or that particular side of the world
Hmm.
talks about the violations of LGBTQ
Right.
rights. But if you look at it, they are in the minority. They are in the
Hmm.
minority, and the kind of laws Qatar or Saudi Arabia is following, it is in the majority. So the other side of the argument would be that I just wanted to specify that there are two sides of the argument, and not just that Qatar and Saudi Arabia are in the wrong, but
Mm-hmm.
it's about the perspective from which side you are looking at.
Absolutely. So yeah, let's move on to the next question in regards to the Indian football region. So, um in India, we saw that that football culture is not that great if you compare with the other Asian countries like Japan or South Korea. And recently, we didn't get the spot for the AFC Champions League, and now we have to play the challenger trophies, which a qualifying process we have to go through it, so that our team like Bangalore FC, Hyderabad FC, the ISL clubs can get the spot in that. And recently we saw that Delhi government and Santosh Trophy saga happened, and the football Delhi, they needed the fund of 15 lakh rupees, but due to some technicality into the maybe in the negotiation deal, the government of Delhi is not going to help to fund the group stage matches for the Santosh Trophy. How, what are the things that if we want to play with the top teams and we have to qualify for the FIFA tournament, what are the things that we have to do so that we can play with the top teams? Like Australia is playing under the AFC region, Japan and South Korea, so that we can compete with that kind of team and we can qualify for the FIFA World Cup in the near future. Because right now, yesterday the AIFF, they released a notification 2047 goal because they are trying to implement their new policies in that. So what do you want to say about it?
I think at least I see it as an eye opener and a positive thing for India,
Right.
because like whenever we just, let's say, take a history book, open it up, Indian football history, and look at India's performance. Has
Right.
it been up to the par where we should be entitled to a direct
Hmm.
spot in a tournament which is now being called as AFC Championship or Champions League, right? Then AFC
Yeah.
Cup, and the third tournament is now going to come up. In, I think 2024 is the time where it is going to start from, right?
Hmm. Right.
So, considering India's performance in the past, I think it is a right move, and India deserves to be there, deserves to be where we will have to work towards qualifying, and it
Right.
is going to have a positive impact on the kind of standards we need to raise as a
Hmm.
country, as these clubs, because competition, if the competition is not there, we as a country are never going to play in the World Cup. It will
Right.
never happen if we keep on relying on a direct spot in our regional league, and just keep playing it because we are entitled and because we are that big of a country, not in
Hmm.
sports, but just at internationally, right? So
Hmm.
that is one aspect of it. But if I were to talk about the internal part of it with respect to Santosh Trophy, or the kind of corruption which lies, not with respect to Delhi government or with not respect to Santosh Trophy, but let's say how FIFA also ended up banning us with respect to third party
Right.
influence which is there. And
FSTL.
before, yeah, exactly right. So even before pointing fingers towards that Indian players are not doing that, there is a
Hmm.
systematic corruption which has to be cured in
Right.
the industry. As you can see, you can learn from um, BCCI. You can learn from
Hmm.
how IPL has been the transformation in the Indian cricket scenario, right? MS
Right.
Dhoni came up, and not just because of MS Dhoni, although the credit goes to the guy, and he has been, I think, 60-70% responsible for it.
Hmm.
But the rest of the criteria, or let's say rest of the, what do you call it? I'm looking for the word, but let's say the credit goes
Yeah.
to how we as the country and our legal system was able to cure
Hmm.
IPL and cure BCCI of corruption, and
Hmm.
different systematic changes were there. So on the same lines, if we are able to do it in the Indian football industry as well. And the third point would be, like, you must have seen it in the movies, you must have seen everywhere, and myself felt it and experienced it, where I have seen a lot of very good players throughout my
Right.
life. Throughout my life, I've been playing football at university level, at university national levels, and we go and see, the kind of players who are playing with like enormous talent. We had
Mm.
that, if you remember, that futsal tournament where Neymar, where your Ronaldinho came in. A lot of
Right.
my friends with whom I used to play, they ended up playing in futsal as their replacements, not direct players, but as their replacement. So it is not
Replacement.
that we do not have talent, but do we have that scouting network which exists,
Mm.
for example, in Europe, for example, USA, where all the players are chosen from the school, high school,
Right.
your then the upper level. The scouts are there, and you don't have to, struggle for it. You don't have to struggle to get a
Right.
scholarship, because in India, throughout, it has been about whether you choose education or you choose sports.
Mhm.
It
Right.
never used to be hand in hand, but now it is. Now you see the kind of players which are coming up, they are very well qualified and also very talented. It has changed, but again, that scouting network is not there. You, for
Mm.
example, you go to Delhi University, you go to Punjab University, you go to any
Right.
state university, you have to go there and give a trial, and there is a huge line half the time. Coaches are not there, scouts are not there
Mm.
even to look at whether what kind of a players are there who are playing it. So again, that systematic failure at ground level has to change and then go there. But I think foundations like Reliance, foundations like your uh, Jindal Steel, so I think the other Jindal, they are trying to bring that change and they are setting
Mhm.
up things. And also the esports is going to have that positive impact on Indian football. Why? Because of the esport market and the kind of money which is there, your Real Madrid, Barcelona, Ajax, everyone is now going to come to India with
Right.
their esports, but they will, if they have that market, if they have that stronghold in the country, they're definitely going to, because you cannot stop clubs like these from setting up everything. Although they are there, but they are there
Mhm.
in collaboration with others. But we
Right.
need that independence. We need that independence of these big clubs, these big organizations to teach that culture of football and scouting
Mm.
and training your players from the, let's say, when you are 4 years 5 years old, you have to be taught football from that. It is
Mm.
not something you learn in 3 years or 4 years.
Right, right, absolutely. Because to have that football culture, we have to have a very strong grassroots development program, so that uh, because I'm from UP and you are from the also northern belt region from India, and we say that the very few sports like cricket is something which is dominating into the in the northern part of India. Football is something that not every you can say we don't have such kind of good clubs, especially from the UP or Bihar. Even in the Delhi also, we don't have a really great club. One ISL club was that Delhi Dynamos football club, and it got dysfunction right now, and we don't have any professional football club right now. Further, if we talk about it, the collaboration that many foreign football clubs have, like Liverpool Football Club, they have this collaboration with the DSK Shivalex, and nowadays that club is not functioning right now. Still, we had just such kind of strategic alliances with the good European football clubs, but still the clubs either get dysfunction or got bankruptcy process. And this is the very sad reality right now into the what happening in the Indian football culture. We had such a I think biggest population right now, and still we can't produce that pool of 30 good players who can play at the international stages.
And like, I would like to add that biggest, youngest population under
Right,
28. So these are the golden years of a footballer, right? These are the golden years of
right.
all the sports athletes. And we have
Mm,
that biggest population in the world. We are termed
mm.
as, next world leaders because of this young population. But still, where are we lacking? What is the problem? Khelo India Abhiyan did a lot of good things, but still a lot of systematic corrections has to happen. Then only we'll be able to thrive in this particular industry.
And recently, Sunil Chettri also mentioned that because India doesn't under the FIFA ranking of 70, and he did get a chance to play into the UK in one of the, I think, Queens Park Rangers. He got that offer. However, because India does not allow the dual citizenship, if it was allowed at that time, because we can hold the two passports from the different nation, and maybe he can play at that time. But because of the government policy that we have right now, he couldn't end up and play into the in the Premier League, and the
With
QPR is the yeah. Please go ahead, sir.
with respect to this, there's one more FIFA regulation which bars Indian players because if I think there's a rule, if you are not a footballing country which falls within 1 to 75 rankings,
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right.
then the players from these countries cannot go and directly play in the top tier leagues. They cannot go and
Right.
directly play in La Liga, in your Serie A, in
Mm-hmm.
EPL specifically, English Premier League. You have to
Right.
first go to a country which
Mm-hmm.
is under 1 to 75. Then only you can take that indirect route. And
Right.
by the time you are taking that indirect route, you are losing out on a lot of years. Or
Mm-hmm.
your parents make that decision where they are uprooting everything and they are shifting to a different country, and then you are starting your footballing career. Because again, FIFA, for although it is for the welfare of the children,
Mm-hmm.
or the kids, that the rule is minors cannot be directly poached from a country to another
Mm-hmm.
country unless the parents are also shifting to a different country for
Right.
their own reasons and not for the footballing reasons. And along with it, there are 4 or 5 reasons which bars or which allows a minor to move. So
Mm-hmm.
again, these bars or these, let's say, the rules and regulations exist, which are also trying to protect the minor, but are also hampering the growth of Indian football
Mm-hmm.
players.
Right. And I think only one player from India he went to the and play for the in the Europa League, Gurpreet Singh Sandhu. So he is the
I think
only
that is for the men's league, but if you look at women's, then we have a lot of Indian
we
origin
have.
players.
And
Yeah.
women football players, they are doing pretty well if we see how it happened. But still, if we saw the
And I think
last three
one of the best examples would be, I think everyone knows about her now, Tanvi Hans, who is doing great with Sisters in
right.
Sweat also. So I think people are taking inspiration, and she is also trying to change that culture in India.
Right. And for the grassroots program that India, that we have to again go into the from the zero, we have to start from the scratch, because the last three event of the FIFA tournaments, we scored only one goals and we conceded 20 plus goals in that three international tournaments. And we have to say that how we have to, because I think 2047 notification that they implemented, which will implement by the AIFF, it can become the very uh, game changer moment for Indian football culture, but it should not be the refurbished version of that Project Goal 2014, which was implemented way back in, I think, 8 9 years back. So you have to see what will happen the 2047, because in the coming 2 or 3 years we will see that how our grassroots level program will be implemented. So yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Or in the shorter term, you need Jose Mourinho to park the bus for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, moving on. Another very important question. So this year, it is very important for the motorsports event which will happen in India next month in 11th of Feb. Formula E racing will happen in Hyderabad, and MotoGP racing will happen in the end of the September. Uh, uh, how it will be important to revive the motorsports culture after we saw that from 2011 to 2013 the Formula 1 racing events were happening in the both international circuit in Noida. And after that we saw that due to the tax dispute, Formula 1 racing is not happening from 2013. How it will be very important for this year for India if they want to have that motorsports culture, because we have some of the good motorsports driver who have the potential to get a chance into the Formula 1 race, in Formula 1 especially. So yeah, please go ahead.
I think as soon as we talk about this particular topic, right, the word comes to my mind is stupid. Not with respect to, let's say, you're asking me a question, so I would like to make it clear that not because of the question, but
Right.
because of the topic which we are talking about. Is because India has lost around 10 to 12 years because of it, because of the
Right.
decision which was taken back then in 2013. So this is usually my one of the first classes in my elective where I take this specific example, where I have to teach what is a game of skill and what is a game of chance, right?
Right.
It all goes back to that basic arguments of deciding whether something is sport or not. And
Hmm.
Indian government, not Indian government, but let's say UP government specifically, they ended up deciding it to be falling under entertainment, that drivers do not play
Right.
any role in it. You have the fastest car, you are going to win. So again, like that is why the idea, or that is why the first thing which comes to mind is stupid. Because of that, we have lost an enormous market, world
Right.
market, which is there in motorsport, right? if just try to imagine if we would have termed it as sport back then, we would
Hmm.
have had Indian origin or Indian drivers driving in F1 or F2 right now. Like I'm sure like we would have seen that change, because back then also we had that wave of people taking up it as a career. Although again I agree that it is a very specific career where you need a lot of backing, economic backing, but
Investment, yeah.
investment.
Formula One racing, I think, is one of the most expensive sport, and you have to have a lot of investment. I think Lewis Hamilton, when he started into the motorsports event, he, I think, invested around 100,000 pounds at that time. I'm talking about in the 1999, 2000, at that way back, and if we evaluate it, it will be much more right now in today's culture.
Yeah. So, for something like motorsport to grow in India is going to take another 10 to 20 years. My
Right.
understanding is that although it's a positive move on behest of Indian government or Telangana government, where they have agreed upon a 4 to 5 year contract, and again,
Hmm.
4 to 5 year contract, right? Not a 20-year contract,
Right.
which
Mhm.
FIA usually get into, because FIA is also not sure what is going to happen. It is a volatile market, and especially India. And for
Mhm.
Indian drivers to get into, like my simple questions are these: like, why do we do well in cricket? Because the previous generations have that knowledge with respect to that particular field. But
Right.
if we talk about F1 or we talk about motorsport specifically, do our previous generations have that knowledge to pass on to us? And each and every person who grows up understanding cricket, who grows up understanding, for example, badminton, for example, football, do we grow up understanding the sport in the similar manner? We
Mhm.
have to, go to Netflix TV series to understand what exactly this specific motorsport is about. What are the rules about? What are the technicalities which are involved? For
Mhm.
example, I was looking or I was listening to one of those interviews by Lewis Hamilton, and how his dad passed on that knowledge to him. I think he was
Right.
taking an example of, his dad used to stand on a corner and
Mhm.
see where other drivers are braking, and his dad would stand 10 yards before it, and he would give him a marker that you have to brake here, you have to brake early, or you have to
Mhm.
brake later. I think it is about braking late and not braking early. So he would go and stand 10 yards ahead of where the other drivers were braking, so they were slowing down, he was not slowing down, and he was able to get that advantage, right? It came from where? He is a world champion, he is a world, let's say, record breaker, and he's going to be arguably is one of the best ever, right? He's
Right.
right there at the top with Schumacher, and
Right.
I think in the coming years he's going to overtake him now, or in the next, not now, but in coming versions which are going to be there. So it again stems from that knowledge which is going to be there. But if I'm coming to the specific question which you are asking, what does it mean for Indian market? But again, it is a positive impact, and not just from the sporting perspective, I think, but from the sustainability perspective as well, right? Because
Mhm.
what you do in, or the kind of innovations which will be done in a Formula One E will have a direct impact on what is happening in the world with respect to transport. Because
Right.
because of Formula One as well, it happened, right? All the technological changes they brought upon in their single seater cars, they were all taken and they were implemented in our real world cars as well. So
Right.
from those two perspectives, it is a very positive move in terms of it attracting investment, because motorsport I think is going to happen in Booth Circuit, and Formula E is going to happen in Telangana. So
Right.
that way, for the growth of sports law, for the growth of formula or motorsport in general in the country, is a positive step by the government and FIA as well. Although like they were not at all happy, I you
Right.
you should just read and listen to all the interviews which happened back then. But they
Mhm.
are now taking a calculated risk. And I was actually talking to one of the FIA lawyers. So she basically mentioned that okay, we did a thorough research. We are confident on our tax lawyers. Like they are totally relying on the tax lawyers to basically find a solution around this particular debate of whether the kind of taxes which they are going to be charged, or how they are now going to twist it around the fact that it is termed as entertainment. Although there have been talks in the past of recognizing it again as a sport, but
Mhm.
it has been something which has not been talked about a lot. But now it is a calculated risk, but a positive risk, which is going to again be on the lines of IPL. Uh,
Mhm.
in terms of not the teams coming up, because Mahindra, I think, has been involved since the inception of Formula
Right.
E.
Yeah.
But in terms of the players, in terms of our knowledge, so that we are able to give it to the future generations. Because I
Right.
understand Formula One now. I never used to understand it, for example, 3 years back or 4 years back. It was Netflix. Like I'm ready to accept it that it is Netflix which generated interest for me, and not specific the sport, but
Right.
through Netflix. But I'll be able to pass it on to others. So again, a positive, or maybe I'm that person who looks at everything and tries to bring out that positivity out of it.
Absolutely. And we talk about it in 2013. If the motorsport hasn't been bracketed under the entertainment sector, we can see the a next generation of drivers in the motorsports industry from India. And maybe some of them were ended up as a reserve driver. And right now, I think there's only one Indian reserve driver right now with the Mahindra Racing. I cannot recall his name right now, but I think he come from the Formula 2 racing because he was performing really well in that tournament, I think in last two season. And finally he ended up, and he will get a chance to test that car, especially the new car which will inaugurated by the Mahindra Racing. So let's see what will happen, because it will be really important for the next 2 to 3 years. But hope that this issue shall be resolved as soon as possible, because there are a lot of hopes right now, because we see that countries like Azerbaijan, they also have their own circuit every year. They saw that they have the Formula One racing, and being in that region, and they are doing really well in that. So let's see what will happen. And I think the number of Formula One teams will increase. It will be much. We will get more drivers from the for the in that specific teams, and that's the only way that the popularity can be get increases. So it shouldn't be become very inclusive club like we saw in Formula 1. Only 10 motorsports organization are are operating. So let's see what will happen in the next month and the coming months, that two important motorsports event. So let's see, are you going to watch it in the Formula
Definitely,
E?
definitely. Although, like again, no shame in accepting that I'm not aware of who is driving and who the uh, players are. But this is the time to start, right? Like we are talking about it being a positive step for India, maybe a positive step for us as sports lawyers.
Right, right. So yeah, let's move on to a last question. So, what are your plans for the future, especially into the sports legal industry? What are your plans for now?
Okay. If I were to talk about my plans without giving away the proprietary knowledge or proprietary information, the kind
Right,
of plans I have in place, uh, I think there are two things I have always felt with respect to the industry, is that there's no specific or specialized master's degree in India with respect to sports law. We see that there are sports management courses, for example,
right,
where the institution I am attached with, IIM Rohtak, they are doing
right.
pretty good with their postgraduate diploma in sports management. Then we have one IISM, I think, in Mumbai.
IISM. Yeah,
Yeah, they are doing pretty well, and the kind of faculty members they attract. Then we have FIFA course as well, but that is by FIFA, by an entity which is international in nature. But
right.
if we talk about Indian universities, there's not a single LLM which is there. Although you
Mhm.
get certain elective courses, for example, at OP Jindal, for example, at where I was working because I was able to offer, or you have Tarun in GNLU, which is doing pretty good with respect to sports law as well.
Right,
But no specialized LLM. So that is my, let's say, drive towards either government or private universities to push for a specialized practice course. again, there's no practice LLM in India
Right.
basically. So the idea is to come up with a practice LLM in sports law, where on the same lines, although the practitioners are coming in and dealing with certain topics, not even subjects, but dealing with certain topics and giving us that knowledge. Because
Yeah.
right now, what we do, we go towards ISDE, we go towards Nottingham Trent, we go towards,
Mm.
I think Miami is also one of the good examples of it, but none
Right.
in India. And we are considered as one of the leading countries in education. But
Mm.
again, and also, like you look at UGC notification that they are bringing in Oxford, Harvard instead of raising the uh, level for us, which is I like in my opinion is not a very good step to bring them here, because those universities are also not be going to be very let's say enthusiastic about doing that great in this country rather than
Mm.
their own, because the kind of business they drive from Asia and India towards those countries is
Mm.
going to be more important for them rather than doing it in this particular country, right? So that is
Right.
one thing. And second is to be able to help at the ground root level. Like I said, from where the journey started, where I used to go to district camps and talk to the players. So again, most of the players, be it esports, which I'm trying to build that particular area for myself as a consultant or as a professional in the industry, for both esports athletes and the athletes, about the rights and
Mm.
basically having that access to that kind of a knowledge without being or let's say without paying that high amount of money which they end up paying usually, and they only pay it when they fall into trouble and not before that. So
Mm.
it's like a preemptive strike
Right.
by India in India for sports
Mhm.
law.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, that is for today. So thank you so much, Professor Nishant, for coming on board in such a short duration and having this session. I think people will love, and because this podcast, I think, put a lot of values in regards to the international football culture, which is happening in the Saudi Cristiano Ronaldo deal, motorsports racing in India, which is very exciting for the coming months. So yeah, thank you so much, Professor Nishant. Any last remark that you want to add before we end this session?
Like, I absolutely enjoyed talking to you, and I absolutely enjoyed watching your previous episodes. So, for like, thank you from all of us to you to taking such an initiative where we are talking about interesting topics and we are talking about contemporary topics in the field of sports law, and not just with the lawyers, but each and everyone who is involved, every kind of role which is there. So I am absolutely thrilled to be here today also. So thank you so much for inviting me, and all the best for your future endeavors.
Thank you everyone for listening to the end of this episode. If you really like our episode, make sure that you like and subscribe our channel. Also, you can find me and Sports Sausage on social media platform. I'll put the link down below of our link tree link so that you can go and check us out. And if you want to know what are things that I'm doing, so just follow me on Instagram. So it's a TK Sports Lawyer. So just find me as well as on Twitter and Instagram. So yeah, we will meet you in our next episode. Until then, goodbye everyone.